Moving ahead with the next session on evolving threats, the future of cybersecurity in and AI-driven landscape by Mr. Sunny Vaghela, founder and director, TechDefence Labs. Please put your hands together for Mr. Sunny. 16 years of experience, specializes in product research and business partnerships. He played a crucial role in investigating the cyber threats of the Ahmedabad blast and the 26/11 Mumbai attacks. As part of the TechDefence Labs, he led 30,000 plus training hours under the hack track vertical and spearheaded 350 plus InfoSec assignment for 80 clients. Sunny also hosted the MTV Web Show. His accolades include the Rajiv Gandhi Young Achievers Award, Best Speaker of the Asian World Summit 2012 to 2016, and recognition as the Indian Ambassador of Cybersecurity by AICTE in 2018. Additionally, he was named Times Man of the Year 2018. ET Industry Leader 2021 and Times Gujarat Icon 2022 for his contributions to cybersecurity. Over to you, Speaker.
So good morning, all of you. Nobody, very low. Good morning. All right, yeah. So although the host has given my introduction, but I come from an offensive security background. I started my career at a very early age when I was only a 16-year-old guy, running some communities on the underground, finding out loopholes when there were no responsible disclosures or even a bug bounty concept was even existing in the world back in 2004-05. One fine day, got people in the brown dress coming to my place to pick me up, and when they picked me up, that was for reporting a problem to an Orkut and disclosing it on Orkut itself without Orkut being aware about it. But then later, they actually asked me that, can you build a cyber cell? And I was like, 17-year-old guy, can I build a cyber cell in Gujarat? I was like, I can do it, that's nothing, rocket science about it. So build a cyber cell, did the forensic lab. That's how my journey has started. And I always connected to a tech, and I would say that I always talk on a bottom line of, what cybersecurity is all about. So if you look at the last couple of years, the whole, the attack shift, or you can say that the mindset of an attacker has been changed from the operating system or to attack your infrastructure or to attack your applications to a human. And that is one of the reasons we need to understand, the recent hacks and what are the lessons that we have learned from the recent hack, and what exactly are going to be the attacks scenarios in the coming future, in next another 5 to 10 years, and what are the strategies that we need to adopt in order to make sure that how do we secure our own organization and how do we actually, make sure to secure the information and sensitive data. If you look at all these websites, they've been breached at least not just one time, but it's twice, thrice, and one or the other breach that they have faced in last almost 5 years of the time. And ultimately, the target was the sensitive data which was stored in that, the websites. And the numbers that you are actually seeing are the numbers which are already compromised. If I look at the financial sector, there are 290,000, the incidents are reported only in 2020 to 2022. If you ask me right now, there are more than 500,000 incidents are reported. Any startups that you see, they have one or the other breach, or the unicorn startups, they faced, and almost the user data is already breached. Even if you look at the debit cards or credit cards, some of the larger banks were attacked, and the debit cards information of more than 3.2 million has been a hit. Now, what are the major root cause of this breaches where organizations are trying to implement a lot of security controls? They're trying to have, the best of the best, the vulnerability management practices, security operation centers, compliance, the framework is what they follow. But still there is a one vulnerability which is always, that which always exists in their network, and that is actually becoming a reason for disrupting the whole the organization. Another interesting hack which I always talk about is all about a Bangladesh bank hack. Some person portray as a the official vendor or a registered vendor of a bank, coming to a SWIFT unit of a bank, convincing the physical security guy that I am from this vendor's organization and I'm here to replace a router, entered that particular SWIFT unit, replaced the existing router with the hacker's router, that's also a second-hand router, copied the configurations, but the only thing that he has made is his own, the MAC address which is whitelisted in that router so that he get an access to that router as well. Getting an access to the router, assessing the internal infrastructure of a SWIFT unit of a Bangladesh bank hack, found there are legacy systems having no patches applied or the latest patches applied, getting into that one of the systems, getting into the client of the maker and checker, I'm getting into the client application of the SWIFT transaction systems, obtaining the maker checker passwords, and within 15 minutes of the time, transferring $80 million from the bank reserves to different accounts. And trust me, till now the government is only able to recover $4 million out of this. The latest news were, after almost 3-4 years, they were able to recover around 10 million because the rest of the money has been transferred into casinos, into Philippines, into other of the country, converted into USDT, cryptos, and you can't even have a track on. So the major part is there are two reasons to it, right? See, the hackers are looking at a very basic thing, right? They're not trying to breach your parameter control, or they're not trying to breach your application security control which is applied, or they're not trying to breach anything which gives a 1% of a suspicion to the IT team or a blue team that there's something is going to happen. It's a clear case of an insider helping an outsider, that this is a router which is one of the very critical router, and if you try to replace this particular router, you could be able to get into the bank's network itself very easily on that. The another example is also, about the insider. Although there are no media who has reported there are insider which is already present in the organization who has given certain information, but without the insider information, the Cosmos Bank hack couldn't have happened. They're using a switch. The switch was of one of the vendor, and the same vendor has been providing an ATM switch to almost all the major banks in India. Now that's also one of the thing that we have been observing while we do a red teaming exercise for many of the organizations, that most of the organizations, they go for some of the branded, the OEMs, and all these branded OEMs or certain of the OEMs have a monopoly in particular area that they are working onto it. But that's also one of the, the questionable things, because whatever patches that are coming from that OEM, you tend to apply those patches rather than verifying those patches itself. And ultimately, the hackers are taking an advantage of this situation that because this is an OEM, which is, providing certain of a critical financial services, into a respective bank, I'm sure that whatever comes from an OEM without verifying it, without waiting it, they will directly apply to that particular system because it's an urgent patch, and security patch as an urgent patch, no matter you have to take a maintenance window for 2 hours or 4 hours of the time. So the same advantage the hacker has taken. With the insider information, he got that what is an OEM, what is the make of that OEM, what is the other make of the OEM. And post that, there's an email coming to a bank stating that, hey, there is some maintenance work which is to be done with the switch, and there are certain patches which are needed to be applied onto a switch. Can you create a static route and make sure that this IP to be whitelisted on that so that the patches coming from this IP address would directly be applied to that particular switch? The patch came, The patch has been successfully installed. Best time, even IT guy was surprised because there was no downtime when the patch has installed, right? But post that patch is installed, the best part the hacker has done is he has changed the configurations in that switch and make sure that the switch connects to a proxy switch based in Canada. And what he started doing, he started monitoring all the transactions which are happening from that ATM switch for almost 6 months. So the actual attack happened after 6 months, but the hacker has been monitoring the ATM switch for almost 6 months and recorded almost 20,000 people's, the transactions, their debit card, their other informations, and all of them have been copied on a proxy switch. Now, when you get a debit card information and a name and even the associated, the confidential information with the debit card, you still can't do anything with that because it requires an OTP if you use it online, and the OTP is to be obtained from a respective person. So what a hacker has done, he has actually ordered those magnetic card writers. He has written physically all those 16,000 debit cards, created a website on a dark web, deep web, and started selling all the debit cards of a price $20 each card, across the globe. You would be surprised to monitor this 20,000 cards, the unique numbers. It has taken 6 months. But to sell those 16,000 cards, it has only taken 6 days. In 6 days, he was able to sell all these physical cards across 40 different countries. And the other respective hackers or the bad guys have bought these cards with the card coming with a one very welcome email that the PIN number of this card will be disclosed to you, in next another 7 to 8 days of the time. It was 13th, 14th, and 15th of August, so 3 days were holiday, right? 13th was a second Saturday, 14th was Sunday, and 15th was Monday, right? 3 days holiday. The cards got active. Switch got connected to a bank main reserve account so that the individual account should not be affected. And finally, everybody has been given an email, the buyers of these cards, that the PIN number is 1234. You go to any ATM and start withdrawing the money. You'd be surprised that NPCI, in the very first time in their history of their life, has recorded transactions from 27 countries from one of the cooperative banks. They've called up a bank stating that, hey, are you guys, I don't know, but how are you all your customer traveling in 27 countries right now? Because we have been recording a very suspicious transactions happening. But by the time they disconnect the switch, by the time they make sure that shut down their infrastructure, 94 crore rupees have already been withdrawn from this particular bank. And that's one of the reasons. If you look at this, the whole hack, the hacker is not trying to penetrate your perimeter. He is not trying to do anything. What is he trying to do is targeting a one person in your organization and making sure to convince that particular person in the organization. And the previous slides, whatever we have seen, that Yahoo breach, LinkedIn breach, Insta breach, anything breach, the best part of the offensive security guys like us right now, or when we do a red teaming, when we profile a whole organization during a red teaming, हमारा सबसे पहला target होता है that identify the key persons in your organization, go to our dump of more than 7 TB, 8 TB of the credential dump of what we have of our different websites, which is already available, because ideally when there is a breach happened, they charge X amount to get those data. But after the hacker is satisfied that, hey, I won enough money out of this data, breach, then he sell it for free also on the dark web, deep web. And we take that free data, after 1 month, 2 months of that particular breach that happened. You'd be surprised that, I bet you almost all people who are sitting in this, hall, 100% people's last 5 years or 6 years ID password combinations must have been available somewhere or the other way in the dark web and deep web. So the target is either you do a social engineering and target one of the person in the organization, and if the person is convinced, make sure to find out their credentials and make sure that those credentials are working for one or the other systems in that organization. And yes, in 80% of these cases, it actually works. So the whole shift of, the attack scenarios, or you could say that the mindset of a hacker has been changing. He's not trying to attack your application which has a WEF ahead of it. He's not trying to attack your infrastructure which has already been monitored using some attack surface management tool. He's not trying to attack your cloud infrastructure which is having some CSPM tool. But what is he trying to attack is your internal person. He's trying to attack your employee, a person or a human, which is one of the weakest link in the cybersecurity. The another hack that has actually proven that you don't require a knowledge to be a cybersecurity expert, offensive security expert. You can still breach one of the largest company in the world, and that's the Uber hack. The hacker was a 16-year-old guy, I think 16 or 19-year-old guy, because he confirmed that his age is 16 or 19. What he started doing is he found somebody's ID password on the dark web, deep web, and those ID passwords belong to the principal DevOps engineer and the DevOps team of the Uber. When he identified those passwords, fortunately, because it was from a recent, the breach and a dump that he has downloaded from a recent breach, it was working. But surprisingly, the Uber was actually having an MFA enabled, on their VPN and on their, email and on their other credentials of that particular, the VPN as well. Now, the MFA was one of the roadblocks for this guy. He did a social engineering, found the phone number of this particular person, of a principal DevOps engineer of Uber and the other respective team members, found that who is the IT support guy or an IT SME, would actually help him to get this MFA, the thing approved. This guy started sending a message on WhatsApp stating that, hey, I am from an IT support team, and what we are doing right now is a VPN, maintenance. And as a part of some problems with our VPN service right now, many users are actually getting the MFA requests, which are to be approved, on their applications right now. Are you getting the same? He said that yes. Please make sure, do not approve it. Now imagine a hacker is saying, please make sure, do not approve it. I will tell you when to approve it. He keep on sending this request to this guy. And then this guy was conversing over a WhatsApp stating that, hey, I'm getting 50 requests. Now tell me when to approve. He said that, yes, we have done almost all configurations. Now do one thing. You need to change a password. But to change a password, first approve this request, then log into the VPN, log into our other portal, and change this other password. I'll tell you the other SOPs, follow on. He said that, okay, I can do it. The guy has approved the MFA request after almost 50 attempts, which the hacker has sent it to him. And because the hacker asked him to approve that MFA request, he approved. And what the hacker has got is an access to the Uber's internal network. The same password which was breached was working for a Slack channel as well. He used the Slack channel, or access to the Slack channel, and got an access to other channels in the Slack or other threads in the Slack. And in one of the thread, what the hacker has been able to find is a PowerShell script of the Uber, which can actually access the AWS account or the main account of the Uber itself. Now imagine you don't need to do anything, right? You got a PowerShell script, you got other of the confidential, the information in that. He executed that PowerShell script, got an access to this, Uber, and this PowerShell script was also connecting to a PAM solutions of the Uber, and then to an AWS account of the Uber. He became the admin of the AWS, become the admin of, the internal Active Directory as well. And finally, after becoming an admin, getting hold of a whole Slack channel, writing one broadcast message to all the channels or all the threads which are running under a Slack, that, hey, I have controlled Uber right now in 10 minutes of the time, right? I'm not going to shut down Uber if the Uber is actually going to pay me some bounty out of it. Although Uber, very proactive organization, was able to get hold of the whole, the AWS and changing the PowerShell script, changing all the VPN credentials, stopping the VPN access for some time, for all users, has happened in a minutes. The hacker was not able to do anything. But that proves that it can be done by a 19-year-old guy sitting in somewhere in the garage, having no knowledge about operating system, applications, network, anything. But a normal social engineering techniques can actually breach the whole organization within seconds as well. Even power plant, which was hacked by Chinese hackers, were also notorious hackers in their 20s who have done this. Even Reddy's lab, also one of the other, the examples of the attacks are not only limited to IT, but they extended to an OT, network as well. But whenever we are, seeing about all these attacks, the most important is the human is always targeted. One of the maritime organization, one of the largest maritime organization, obviously HQ in Mumbai, is my customer, but when they were not my customer, said, Sunny, can we do a red teaming? I said, yeah, but I don't want to do a red teaming on my IT network, but there is an, IT-OT convergence which is happening, which is a network that is connecting to my vessel network. Can we try to connect to my vessel network? Or can you make sure that your guys would be able to come to our office, connect to any of the network and, get hold of, the OT networks of my vessel? Trust me, here also I found one of the very interesting thing, that there's only one particular, so all these vessels or all these ships, when they were made 20 years back, the internet wasn't in the picture. The internet came in the picture after 2010, 2011, right? Now there are certain OEMs who have monopolized the whole, those boxes what they have made for vessels to make the vessel more smarter, connect to a satellite internet. And the best part for us is that while we are doing a red teaming activity, we did not targeted that company. Rather, what we have done is we targeted the company which is actually making this kind of a box known as an infinity box. And that infinity box is what we targeted. How we targeted? We also portrayed one of the customers. We wanted to procure this. Show us what is your the system all about, your firmware, your other things. Before procuring all of those things, we wanted to make sure that we assess your infinity box so that we understand the security posture of your box before we procure it for our own company. Now imagine a case, creating a website, talking to them, all of the social engineering is what we have done. Because the company wanted to do a business with us, they started giving out all the information, all the access to the UAT applications and how it is being interfacing with other of the applications, what are the APIs, what are the endpoints. We were able to find out a problem in that, and that has actually helped us to go to that respective organization, find a problem, get the URL, scan that URL, breathe that API, and make sure to get hold of this infinity box. So again, the problem is a human. So what we are trying to do right now is we create a complex IT infrastructure, create a lot of technologies in and around it, but we need to understand the hackers also see the security from a holistic perspective. He always try to see a very simple thing, and that is the user awareness. That is a lack of awareness in your user. Use the dark web, deep web credentials, and make sure that he would able to breach your organization itself. Trust me, when this hacker has done everything using Uber, the best part is that now with the chat GPT, with prompt engineering coming into a picture, the hackers are nowadays creating a lot of GPTs of their own to automate certain of their functions, to train their GPTs that if any sort of such OEMs or any sort of such vendors are actually coming into a picture, these are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things that you need to do, because this is a vulnerability that we have discovered. So basically what is happening, if there is an X OEM maintaining an ATM switch, I perform an assessment on that ATM switch. I found out 10 vulnerabilities on that ATM switch with the version and everything. I train my model, I train GPT to basically make sure that the next time when you just put a number, when you put a, the version and OEM and everything, it actually tells you what are the different ways you can even breach that, that particular switch itself. So that is the change which is actually happening in the cybersecurity, and that's why, if the one organization is attacked, and if the same organization is using same application or other organization using same application made by the same OEM, they are getting attacked in a very simple, or you can say that within no time. So I always use one sentence that why the problem is there in cybersecurity. So most of the people who develop networks or who develop applications or who are maintaining those technologies are not the hackers. And hackers are those people who are developing, implementing, maintaining, and having in and out of knowledge of everything as well. The second problem is that no matter whichever security controls that you define, but the defenders are working in silos. So like you have a SOC team as a different vendor, you have a vulnerability management team as a different vendor, you have a compliance and a GRC professionals are working in their own fashion, developing their own policies. But is there any collaboration happening between these all teams? Did your SOC team ever reach out to your VAPT guys telling them, hey, I discovered there is some issue exists with this OEM or with this application because I have been seeing such sort of a traffic with such sort of a payload which is actually coming on this particular, the endpoint. Can you do one thing? I'll share with you those logs, dump. Can you try to use this payload and make sure that whether this application is actually vulnerable to this loophole or not, whether this, X firewall is vulnerable to such sort of, the exploit which is happening or not. So because there is no communication happening between these teams, it's always been a problem for an organization to make sure that get a complete holistic view of how cybersecurity, is to be looked at. And this is the reason, I always say that why hackers succeed, because there's no right visibility that you get from, all the teams. Although you get dashboards, although you get CISO dashboards, CIO dashboards to get to know what are the incidents are reported, what are closed, what are open, what is the trend of incidents, what is the other trend of incident, but are we actually taking an intelligence out of it? And that's where the question is no. While we are in Gujarat, Gujarat being a manufacturing hub, and I have my HQ in Gujarat and Mumbai and Pune, I mean the Mumbai, Pune at the branch offices, and I reach out to a couple of organizations. We serve close to 400 plus customers, the 80 was a different number. The question was that the organization does not have a CISO, or there are many manufacturing organizations I've seen where the CIO plays a role of CISO, CDO, CTO, and almost all of that. And then when there was a cybersecurity which we talk about, they wanted to do everything. But the question was that there are different people who are managing. So what we have done is that we have actually tried to convince them that if they want to have a cybersecurity team, they need to have this many number of people in-house or this many number of people in the red team or blue team which are needed to be there. If you put an X cost to your hiring or giving out to a vendor, taking their resources, taking technologies, and then making sure to implement all of these technologies, again, it is going to happen in silos. So in Gujarat, we implemented one of the model. It was first adopted by Adani Group, and that was our own cyber program management. We have created a program management, and that was first adopted by Mr. Jackson, who was a CISO back in 2020. And now there are almost 3-4 CISOs who have changed, and they've still been managing this particular thing. In this model, what we do is we created 4 pillars in the organization, and on a shared service, we make sure that the organization optimizes the whole cost. They don't need to invest in any single technology on the cybersecurity. We as a vendor, we bring in all the technology, but giving as a service to our, the customers. But still the customer can end-to-end manage almost all the pillars of cybersecurity program. It covers 4 pillars. The one is assurance and compliance, where we start with maturity of your IT, OT, create a roadmap to make sure that, create those policy processes, awareness calendars, simulations, architecture reviews of your whole network, setting up the whole risk management framework, risk assessment framework, and delivering all those assurance compliance reports. The most important part for any organization is a vulnerability management. So we create a whole program and make sure to run all of this complete program with our expert team of, the VAPT, researchers. Yes, we have one of the leading VAPT team in India, which has 120 plus security advisories published. We have 40 odd CV 0 days in our name, 200 Hall of Fames for reporting problems into 500 Fortune 500 companies. And then we are in top 100 leads of BugCrowd or HackerOne or, Cynic is what we call about. And a security operations center. So we design our own platform, integrate with a couple of OEMs. So we don't try to change what organization already has, but rather we create our own platform and give our own platform and integrate, be it you have a Secure Onyx or IBM QRadar or a Splunk or anything, and make sure that we provide the right set of monitoring, threat intelligence, dark web, deep web monitoring, and brand monitoring, and even the forensic exercise included into this. But the best part of this program is that we do the governance of this program. That's the fourth pillar of this program. But because it's a shared services model, I can give you not only one examples, but rather I can give you 100 examples where, let's say, Nadani Group wanted to manage the whole group of the cybersecurity. So the 70 people are required, and right now we are effectively managing with 22 people on board. And 22 people are on my payroll, working with them, maintaining all the different functions. All the managers, CISOs, CIOs are different, but the people actually on ground or managing different functions are only 22. Organization like Astral, one of the largest group, they've been managing with almost 7 people with all technologies, and there are almost other people in the back end. They've been managing through this. Another organization, Zensar, having their own SOC, own VAPT team, own compliance team, everything. When we reached out to them, and it's been almost 3 years, we've been managing almost each and everything of them and saving the costs by almost 60%, for the cybersecurity cost and managing each and every function in the cybersecurity with that. But the biggest problem is that, cybersecurity mein talent milna mushkil hai. And that's what I realized, back in 2017. And I also come from a training background. So 2011 to 16, I was completely into training. When I started my company into services in 17, and we onboarded our first customer was Adani Group, and they said that, yaar, hame itne log chahiye, My question was how I'm going to get people, how I'm going to get a trained people. So what a company has done, apart from the services what we provide, we have taken a training vertical to another level. So first university was a Gujarat university, then Parul, then Symbiosis, then LJ, Silver Rock. With all this university, because I was appointed as an ambassador of India into 2018 by AICT itself, so I took an advantage of that, trust me. And there's a great licensing that I've done. I went with the content of 1200 hours, and I said that, can you please approve this content? And it's a BTech in cybersecurity and MTech in cybersecurity. And right now, we are one of these few companies in India, I think one of the 2-3 companies in India, who are running their dedicated industry-run bachelor programs and master programs on cybersecurity with 7 to 8 odd universities. When I started this program with 2-3 universities back in 2018, it was a okay response, around 100 people admitted in each of the universities. This year, in 2024, when my 2-3 batch are already passed out, because of word of mouth, we have admitted across all these 7-8 universities, including the Symbiosis International in Pune, 6,700 people admitted in BTech. There are 1,300 people admitted in MTech. And this is what we are trying to do, or we are trying to change the whole ecosystem on cybersecurity with our own managed services, our own resource component. And when I say that I run the program, we do not teach some of the things, or when we enter into a college, when we enter into university, we change the whole syllabus. We change whole syllabus which has not been updated for years and years. And we make sure that with a lot of OEM associations, what we have right now, they provide their certifications to our respective, the people in the colleges itself. And that's one of the reasons the company has been growing from 2018 consistently 200% year on year. Right now, we are at a state that one of the company out of the 3 group entities has been listing on NSE, BSE very soon in the month of December. And we are coming up with our own IPO, one of the few cybersecurity companies coming up with their IPO in next another 3 to 4 months of the time. There's some of the media coverage is what we have, and we have a stall over here. I look forward to connecting with each one of you and understand your pain areas and make sure that how do we add a value to, providing certain of the cybersecurity with your own organization itself. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
I would like to call upon stage Mr. Ajay Avle, CIO, Aqua Farm Chemicals Private Limited.